Our regular scheduled board meeting.
She's not on.
It is March 21st, 2024. I am Amber Bass, the vice president, but Adam is under the weather this evening, so I am filling in as president. Mr. Danny Salazar is going to open us an invocation, if you'll pray with us.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for the rain that you blessed us with today, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to be here in your presence, in the community's presence. Lord, we as we conduct the business of the district, just let us be mindful of everything that is involved, all the decisions made. May they be made through you. And God, we love you, and we thank you. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Ms. Salazar is going to...
Would you please stand with me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. We have a few citizen comments this evening, and I'll go over the rules of that. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. When necessary for effective meeting management or to accommodate large numbers of individuals wishing to address the board, the presiding officer may make judgments to adjust the public comment procedures, including adjusting when public comment will occur during the meeting, reordering agenda items, continuing agenda items to a later meeting, or provided expanded opportunity for public comment, or establishing an overall time limit for public comment and adjusting the time allotted for each speaker. However, no individual shall be given less than 1 minute to make comments. I believe we have 5 speakers, so that will fall in the 3 minutes to address the board. And our secretary will time those for us. And our first speaker is Christopher Ramirez and Michael Napier.
Talk to you guys about wrestling, sport that we love. So first of all, my name is Chris Ramirez. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. I came out here to wrestle for Wayland. I did teach here in Plainview ISD for about 3 years. Had to stop teaching. It was at DC, and now I'm teaching over in Lubbock ISD. My wife and I started this program this year. We've been coaching for 5 years, the youth program in Plainview, and we've seen numerous results. This year, we had one of our girls qualify for Team Texas. I think if we had the community outreach in that time, she would have been able to make it, but she wasn't able to make it because of the financial restraints that her family had. So along with that, I do teach in Lubbock, and so I do help and volunteer my time with the middle school that I teach at, and I coach their wrestling program. Last year, I was able to help them with their first wrestling program to a second place city championships finish. And again, it wasn't just me. The kids put in their effort. I had other coaches help as well. And in this process, my wife and I thought God is putting us here to make wrestling happen in Plainview. I started doing my research, started talking to coaches in Amarillo and Lubbock, and one of my biggest guys that I've been talking to is Coach Carino over in Randall. They just finished winning their state championship again. And so he's been giving me rundowns of budgets of mats costing maybe around to $8,000 to $12,000 for a good new mat, a mat dolly for $500, singlets for 20 boys and girls. You're looking at about $45 to $120, depending where you get those singlets from. And then travel, you're looking at about $2,800 for boys and $3,500 for girls. And so from my understanding, from what he shared with me, that's probably one of the least expensive sports in UIL right now. So that's really all I wanted to share. I know that I'm teaching right now. I'm looking forward to coming to the opportunity to come back, to be home, closer to my family, closer to my wife. And with this opportunity coming up, I would really love to, kind of step into that position, step into that role if the position opens up.
And I just want to take some time to, as a college coach here at Wayland Baptist University, just want to share the impact that our students have gone off back to their prospective homes to share with other kids and help them to grow, whether it's they're helping out a club or if they're teaching at their prospective homes and getting to help grow other athletes. And so I've gotten to see a lot of students come and go through Plainview and get to impact their prospective places, both around Texas and around the United States. And so that's been awesome for me. And I really believe that Plainview is primed to help students come, not just from outside the Plainview to here, but to help those that are here to have that success, both locally and nationally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, next we have Myra Ramirez.
Good evening, board. My name is Myra, and we are here to propose the idea of having a wrestling program in the high school. And so I want to talk to you about my personal experience as a high school athlete. I am Myra Ramirez, and I went to Wayland, and I wrestled for them 5 years. I'm a multiple-time All-American. Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm a multiple-time All-American in the college level. And in high school, I was a multiple-time state placer and a multiple-time All-American placer. And I'm not saying that just to look good and make you feel like you should definitely do this so that I could be the coach. No, but I'm saying that because I come from a low-income background. I come from El Paso, and I am a first-time U.S. citizen, not a first-time, I'm a first-generation U.S. citizen. And so my mother, she's a single mother from Juarez, Mexico. And without the high school program at my high school, I know I would have not been able to, I would have never been exposed to wrestling. And wrestling personally opened a lot of doors for me. I was able to travel with the team. And at times, I was the only one traveling to the state competitions because from my high school that I come from, there was just not a lot of talent coming out, but because we just didn't have the resources. Long story short, I saw a lot of things. I got to grow, and the best coaches that I ever had in my life was my wrestling coach. He was the father figure in my life. He was the only male role model I had all high school. And because of him, now I can stand here and I can say all these accolades that I have because of him in the sport. And so I wanted to give that side of my story because I know that we have a lot of kids in this community that unfortunately are not able to take advantage of the club that we have because of the cost. I know back when I was a kid, I was not in a position, my parents were not in a position to do clubs. And so when I did enter the high school program and that was offered to me through the school funding, you know, of course, there's fundraisers and things like that, but some children are in circumstances like I was, and I want them to have that opportunity personally. And I know I'm not the only one that agrees. We have several coaches on our mat that are willing to do that for the children of Plainview. They're willing to step up and be that male role model that they're not seeing at home because they come from fatherless homes. They're willing to teach them how to become good men and women so that this community can grow. I'm personally willing to do that, and I just wanted to share that wrestling can do a lot of things for this community, and especially for our low-income students that need that push and they need that gusto to just know, wow, I did that, I can do that, okay, maybe I can do that other thing. And if it wasn't for wrestling, college would have never been a topic in my family. And I have graduated from Wayland with a master's degree in accounting and a bachelor's degree in accounting. And now my nephews and nieces talk about that. Thank you so much for your opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Annabelle Aranda. Am I saying that right, Aranda?
Hi, good evening. I'm Annabelle Aranda, and I am here from Plainview. I have a 5th grader, and he's at the intermediate school, and I have a 1st grader, and he's at Central. And we started the program with wrestling. Oh, I want to say it's probably been like almost a year. And my boys have just fallen in love with the sport. They've been dedicated. All they talk about is wrestling. They've really put in the work. They look forward to it. It's been something that I can see that they're really excelling in, and they may, even have a future, hopefully collegiate level or hopefully high school level. So we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money into the program and going to all these competitions. We've traveled to Amarillo, Fort Worth, almost as far as, I can't remember what it was like 8 hours away. But anyways, we've done traveling. They've put in the work. They've gotten the results. They've done really well. But one of the things that me and my husband have been faced with is, well, we're doing all this, training and things, but my he's 11 years old. So when he hits about 13, 14, he's going to age out of the program. So we're thinking, well, all this investment in his time and his efforts, what's next for him? What are we going to do? If he continues to do well, if he goes on to really want to continue the sport, what are we going to do at the next level? We even considered, well, what school district could he go to that offers wrestling? Where could we go where he can, exceed his full potential to see what's next for him, as well as my younger one. So we love Plainview. We love to stay here. All our family is here. So if you guys could have a high school wrestling team, even an intermediate school wrestling team, whatever you could do, it would be really advantageous for us as well as our wrestling family. And it's just a sport that they've really come to love. I honestly didn't know anything about wrestling, so this was new for me. But if you go attend one of the matches or several of the matches, you won't want to leave. It's so fun to watch. It's a sport that not a lot of people know about. I'm still learning things about it as well. And it's just been a really good opportunity for us. And that's all.
Thank you. Okay. You know this last name? Mona. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. You may have to help us.
Hello, I'm shorthanded. Just thank y'all so much for letting us be here. I have a little bit of backstory. I am from Plainview. I've born and raised here my whole life. My son graduated here, Joshua Vetta, and if you know Vetta, we all know baseball. Never in a million years would I think we would be doing wrestling. But my daughter loves wrestling, and I mean, it's something that I keep having to ask the coaches, what is that? What are they doing? They'll ask me about baseball, and I can tell them about wrestling. So we're working there. But I mean, it's really good. As a single parent for my son, I do know the struggles. And he has always told me that he looked up to all his coaches. And from being a single parent, I'm not one anymore, but my oldest son, I do understand that. And my whole goal was for him not to be a statistic. I was really young when I had him. And so I'm very proud of him, 75th Regiment Ranger, but it had to do a lot with sports. And he's dedicated, and that's what he always tells me all the time. He's like, Mom, actually, if it wasn't for him, I would have never put Madison in wrestling. I would have straight put her in baseball, and that's all we would have done. But he's the one that told me that that's one of the best sports. One of his, battalion, he's a sergeant, one of his teammates or whatever. I still call it baseball. But in the Army, he wrestles, and he came from Iowa. And he would tell Joshua that was the best sport, and Joshua's worked out with him. That's what they do. And, he would tell him, there's a wrestling team in Plainview. And so he signed up. He signed up my daughter, not even me. He did. He signed her up and said, I'm going to pay, you're going to take her. It's good for health. So we did, and she loved it. But, we do, that's what he tells me. Mom, Amarillo and Lubbock and all in that area. I know Tascosa had wrestling since '82. We compete with them. We go to state. My daughter and a lot of these kids, 22 of these kids went to state. We are competing against Randall, Friendship, and we're winning. To be our first year, we're going to compete with these people in state. And I just think it's a shame that we don't have a wrestling team here. That's something that Plainview, I'm from Plainview. I love Plainview. This is my hometown, and so I will always represent Plainview. And so I just want, and it is sad when we go to state and you have other towns saying, y'all aren't going to ever get a wrestling team. You should think about moving. I'm from Plainview. My parents played sports here, so that is just one thing that we're really advocate about. And I want my daughter to graduate from Plainview High. I do have 3 children. I have one child that he's doing homeschool. He has autism, really can't deal with a lot of kids. but my oldest one did. And that's what he says, Mom, she's not going to be a bulldog? And he says, you better not take her to friendship. Like, we're never going to take her to friendship. But so, but it's just, we just need it. And as him being a single parent, we do have a lot of single parents on the team. I mean, parents, sorry. But thank y'all for y'all's time.
Thank you.
If the board will allow, at the next board meeting, I'll address the topic in the superintendent's report on wrestling, and had a meeting with Coach Haddock and Coach Alfa earlier today. And so we can provide some information and some details and some research and whatnot that they've already put in. And so I'll be able to provide a more detailed report at the next board meeting in the superintendent's report at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I think we don't have any recognitions tonight. That didn't end up working out. So we'll move on then to the business items, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Consideration and approval of board resolution in the support of fair and transparent accountability system.
Yes, ma'am. The first item under consideration, and it's something that we've talked quite a bit about, and as the board has been made aware, there is ongoing litigation in the state of Texas filed by Texas Public School Districts against the state of Texas and the commissioner as a representative of the Texas Education Agency and public education in Texas. This resolution is a resolution that I'm recommending to the board on behalf of the Texas Association of School Boards and the Texas Association of School Administrators. The title of the resolution is Board Resolution in Support of a Fair and Transparent Accountability System. So at this time, I'll see if Mr. Jennings can pull it up on the screen, and then I'll go ahead and read through it. You want the resolution? So, whereas the Plainview School District Board of Trustees believes in a fairly and consistently applied accountability rating system from year to year. Whereas the Plainview School District Board of Trustees acknowledges that the rating system should provide transparency to parents and the public with simple, accessible, and understandable information. Whereas the transparency objective is also furthered by requiring the commissioner to provide the measures, methods, and procedures to school districts that will be applied to all school districts from year to year and without mid-year change. And whereas year-to-year consistency allows timely notice to school districts and their campuses to plan school improvement efforts based on measures, methods, and procedures adopted by the commissioner. Whereas the Texas legislature requires the commissioner to provide the measures, methods, and procedures on a year-to-year basis and without mid-year change. Without annual consistency, school districts and campuses cannot effectively plan to achieve high performance ratings unless the commissioner complies with the legislature's mandate. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Plainview School District Board of Trustees joins in collective efforts with all other state Texas school boards to commit our support in pursuing action to ensure the rating system provides a fair, transparent, and effective system for assigning performance ratings to school districts based on consistent measures, methods, and procedures. Oppose the commissioner's retroactive and drastic mid-year change to the measures, methods, and procedures used for the 22-23 school year performance ratings, and stand in support of the rating system adhering to Texas state law as passed by the Texas legislature. And finally, stand in support of efforts to reform the accountability rating system to one that uses multiple effective school measures for all grade levels and a more holistic approach to assign the ratings of a campus and the performance of each student in lieu of relying heavily on one standardized test. So on behalf of the administration and in concert with the Texas Association of School Boards and the Texas Association of School Administrators, I make this recommendation to the Board of Trustees that the board consider and ratify the resolution.
Board, any questions or comments about this resolution? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I so move we approve the board resolution in support of fair and transparent accountability system.
I second that. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you.
We'll get y'all signatures before y'all depart, and then we'll post this and we'll submit it into TASA.
At this time, I'll take just a brief minute break here. We have about 14 items on the agenda. If you want to stay, you're welcome to, but I know we have a large crowd and you may have other activities. I'll take about a 1 minute break if you need to leave, but if you want to stay and see the rest of the business items, you're more than welcome to.
Except for the administrators, y'all have to stay. Sorry, guys. I saw Rodney getting up and I'm like, no, you got to stay, man.
All right, we'll keep going. Our second item is the consideration and approval of the Plainview ISD local policy revisions.
We're talking about FD local in particular, and FD local, you'll see towards the bottom 3/4 of the page, the underlined text, students not enrolled. And what this policy would do would in effect ratify a resolution made during the COVID-19 shutdown. And it would read, a student enrolled in a private school, including a homeschool, shall not be eligible for concurrent enrollment in the district, nor for participation in curricular or extracurricular activities except as required by law. Of course, the law is very specific in terms of a student who isn't enrolled and what they would be eligible to participate in, but this would disallow students who are not enrolled in Plainview ISD from taking positions on fine arts organizations such as choir, band, theater, or in our athletic extracurricular activities away from students who are fully enrolled, show up at school in the morning, work throughout the day, take the classes, meet the eligibility requirements, stay eligible. So on behalf of the administration, making this recommendation to take the resolution that was passed during the COVID-19 timeframe and formalize it in policy FD local and in policy FD local and FM local.
Board questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pass a resolution to finalize the FD local and the FM local guidelines.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Our third item is the application approval for transport student out-of-state agriculture contest for the dairy judging team.
And Ms. Long will speak to this item.
Good evening, Board. And I've got an email today saying that that competition had been moved to Tarleton at Stephenville, so there's no needed action on this item.
Okay, thank you.
That's the easiest one.
Okay. Recommendations for employment of Mr. Daniel Fitzgerald as the Director for Secondary Teaching and Learning and Career and Technical Education. A familiar face here.
We're very excited to make a recommendation for Mr. Daniel Fitzgerald to rejoin the team that he never should have left, but we understood that he wanted Mr. Reagan's job, but Mr. Reagan still wanted it too. So he had to go be a high school principal somewhere else, but we're happy that this opportunity for a directorship did open up. And Ms. Long is going to introduce Mr. Fitzgerald again, as well as his lovely wife.
Okay, this isn't on the bio, but I'm super excited about this. Daniel and I worked really closely together the first few years I was principal, so we're glad he's here tonight. But his bio, Daniel Fitzgerald describes his time in education as a privilege. His 16 years of service have included various capacities: teaching, coaching, curriculum coordinator, associate principal, and most recently, principal of Olton High School for the past 2 years. 11 of his 16 years have been spent in Plainview ISD. Daniel is married to Felicia, who is currently studying at Amarillo College to obtain an RN degree. Their son Ethan is a senior at Plainview High School and plans to attend South Plains College in the fall. Daniel says, "It has been my life calling to work alongside all the people I have encountered over the past 16 years. I love supporting people, learning from them, and working together as a team to achieve high expectations and success. I am very excited and blessed for your consideration to serve as Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning in CTE for Plainview ISD. I look forward to amazing things."
With that, I would like to recommend, on behalf of the administration, Mr. Daniel Fitzgerald for the position of Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning and Career and Technical Education. And the position will become effective in June.
Board questions or comments?
Do we need an RN?
We do. We'll be happy to take the package deal.
Very good. Yes, it's always exciting to get some of our people back. So, okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move. We approve the employment of Mr. Daniel Fitzgerald as the Director for Secondary Teaching and Learning and Career and Technical Education.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Welcome
Very
home.
good. Yes.
If we can get a picture of y'all up here, we'll move out of the way so the logo's in the background and it looks really good. So we'll get a picture of y'all and Ivan will load it on the webpage and people will go, "I know that guy."
Okay. All right, our fifth item is consideration and approval for the application for staff development minute waivers.
All right, I'll ask Ms. Pardo to present this to the board.
What we're doing here, and I think I was able to speak to some of the board members about this before, but it's a waiver that we apply to TA to help us with our calendar minutes. And so it provides us time, 2,100 minutes, so that we can apply those minutes to professional development. And so with your approval, we would like to ask you to please consider this waiver.
Okay, board questions or comments?
Is this professional development, so if the waiver is in place, is it like professional development local, or do you travel for this, or is there traveling?
This would be local.
Yeah.
It would all be local. So if you look at the calendar, on the calendar, those days are coded or color coded as red. And so if you look at it, each one of them there will give us an opportunity to provide those days for our staff, but it's all here.
Thank you.
And we did that in this current
Yes,
calendar.
you approved that last year for
So
this
we've
current
already
year,
done
and
that.
actually, it really helped us because on a bad weather day, normally we would have had to make up that day. And so it caught me off guard. I'm so sorry. We'd have to make up that day, but since we had some credit on the minutes base because of the waiver, we were able to take the 29th of March off for the entire district.
Oh,
Those minutes help us bank some minutes in case there's a snow day or a cancellation, but it also provides time for professional development.
And that was one of the big questions that was asked immediately after we came back, if staff was going to have to make up that Monday that we worked from home, and the answer was no, we don't. Then the next question was, well, do we lose the 29th? And because of the waiver, we don't. And the whole premise behind the waiver is when you look at the calendar and you see the red days, staff comes in and grades papers or works on planning or undergoes some type of professional learning. And the state counts that as if students and staff were both together. And so those minutes where kids aren't on campus do count as if they were towards our total number of minutes that we have to provide for instruction throughout the school year to be in compliance with the Texas Education Code.
And it's offered to all the charter schools and public schools in Texas, and I'm sure other people take advantage of it. But last year you did approve it, and so it came in handy for this school year.
So on behalf of the administration, I'd like to make the recommendation to the board for your consideration and approval of application for staff development minutes waiver.
okay, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next, we have consideration and approval of the 24-25 instructional calendar.
And Ms. Pardo will do this. And then one of the big questions to be sure that we clarify is on the early release days, where we have two early release days, where we have an early release day with students, and then right behind that, we have another early release day. So if you can emphasize how that functions.
Okay, so last year, you know that we were tasked with looking at a calendar that was an innovative calendar. Normally, Plainview Independent School District, we've always gone with a traditional calendar. Thank you, that will help me. And so we're looking at a calendar that's basically an innovative calendar for our district. Last year was the first year we basically piloted that calendar. And so as we created the calendar for this year, we had overwhelming feedback that they wanted the calendar to look a lot like it was last year. And so as I go through the calendar, I'll go through the months of, would you like me to go through each month? Okay. All right, so one of the feedback that we did receive was starting in July was just too early. Teachers were asking, could we possibly just wait until August before we start school or any kind of training? So we worked through the calendar and made it possible for teachers or new teacher orientation to not start until August the 1st, as you can see up on the calendar there. So we have 2 days of teacher orientation. The other feedback that we received was that 3 days of new teacher orientation was just too many days, that they were leaving the orientation and they were just overwhelmed with so much information. So we took that into consideration. As you can see, the color coded red days up there, those are the professional days. So we'll have 5 professional days for our staff before we start school. The gold color, the August the 12th, that's a day that teachers will have a work day so that they can prepare and work in their classrooms the day before school starts. School starts August the 13th. Moving into September, we have a holiday on the 2nd. And then if you'll look down to the 23rd, the color-coded box in red with the triangle, that day is set aside specifically for House Bill 1416, which used to be 4545, HB 4545. And so that day is designated for our campuses to go through and have meetings with parents of students who did not pass the STAR test and go over their plan. Let's see. Moving on to October, we have our fall break. We get feedback that this break is very much needed, that by October, we call it Shocktober. People need a break, and so we have provided that fall break. When we return, students get an extra day, but our staff have a day to have a PD day before they get started back for the semester. In November, we have an early dismissal day. If you'll look at November 22nd, you have, it's coded blue and then the brown color. So typically on these days, the high school gives their test and then they release, they have early dismissal. And so what we're doing differently this year, the high school will still have that opportunity, but the entire district will be released at this time. Students will be sent home at noon, and then our staff will have the afternoon to look at benchmark scores, look at data, work on plans. Every single staff member will have an opportunity to work through whatever they need to. Typically around this time, we have a benchmark test. So we looked at this date to make that time available to our staff. Then we go into Thanksgiving break that following week. And so that time they have on the 22nd will be utilized so they can go into break, and then when they return, they're ready to go and hit the ground running with the data they have. Looking at December on the 19th, again, we have testing on that day, and so we would dismiss all staff at noon. I'm sorry, not staff, students at noon, and then the afternoon we would have students, forgive me. We would have all of staff work in the afternoon, and then Friday would be a day that you also have early dismissal to start the holiday.
That would be just for staff. So staff
And that would
be
just be
salary.
for staff. Mhm. January, we start the semester on the 7th. Oh, let me go back. One of the challenges that we had because of the leap year and also the UIL requirements was that as we drafted calendars, we were finishing the semester up in January. And so we sent out a survey for staff to fill out. And then again, we received responses that it's really tough to end the semester in January because of the dual credit courses. And so Amy Carrasco, who is very math-minded, brilliant with math, she went back and I said, okay, Amy, what can we do here? She went back, she recalculated, we moved things around, and she was able to make it happen. So we will end the semester in December. And then January, we start the semester on the 7th. When staff returns on the 6th, again, they have a PD day. And so they'll have a day to prepare before students come back on the 7th. On the 20th is a student and staff holiday. Moving on to February, you have a week of midwinter. And then a month later, we tried to make sure it was about a month later, we have spring break. And then April, we have a snow day on the 16th. And normally this is the month where we have like Good Friday, and then we're typically off on the following Monday. And if you notice here, the semester starts on the 21st. The reason we couldn't do that is because we'll go into testing mode. It's already scheduled. And so starting April the 22nd, we will be testing. So students had to return the 21st and so did staff. So if anybody asks, you can let them know that on the 16th, they will have a snow day and that's on Good Friday. But due to testing, we won't have that following Monday as a holiday. Moving into May, you have the 12th as a PD day. Typically around this time, we start having conversations to prepare for the fall. And we have a much needed PD days to prepare staff for training. And so we did provide the May the 12th as a PD day. 26th is a holiday. Moving on to the 29th, you have that Thursday, you have half-day dismissal. Staff will have the afternoon to plan and to work through whatever they need to prepare to end the semester and the school year. And then you have your Friday where you will be dismissed, have early dismissal for all. And graduation will be that Friday as well. Do you all have any questions?
And this calendar does meet all of the state requirements for minutes. You can see the start times and end times. And the third 6 weeks isn't a third 6 weeks, it's a third 5 weeks. So yeah, first 6 weeks, second 6 weeks, third 5 weeks into the first semester, start of the second semester, and then the remaining fourth, fifth, and sixth, 6 weeks are 6 weeks.
And the reason we had to do that was to be able to end the semester in December. And the fall semester has 81 instructional days, and then the spring semester has 94 instructional days.
If you don't mind, Ms. Pardo, can you talk about the process used and the vote and the percentages? Do you have that information?
I don't have the percentages with me. You have them? Maybe can you pull them? What we did, we drafted 3 calendars and we took them to EIC. Based on conversation in the previous EIC meeting, I asked them, go back to your campuses, go back to the community, get some input and bring it back to us so that we can start preparing. One of the requests we've had is to have maybe a 4-day calendar, a 4-day calendar for the year. And that would have added about 40 minutes. So as we presented it to EIC, thank you. As we presented it to EIC, I don't think anybody wanted to go back and say, guys, we're going to add 40 minutes to the school day. So they voted on 2 calendars. We took it back and we presented it to SLT. After presented it to SLT, we sent them out to the district. And so people had an opportunity to vote on the 2 calendars, on the 2 drafts, and then also provide feedback. And so the calendar that you're looking at right now, that was voted, the percentage there was 78.3, and then the other calendar was 21.7. So version 1 had the fewest votes, and then version 2, which is the one you're looking at, was overwhelmingly selected with a percentage of 78.3. The adjustments that we did make were the ones we spoke about earlier, mainly to end the semester and to start also at a later day. That's the challenge. The challenge is to start later on in August and then to end that semester was a huge challenge. But Amy went back and did some research and said we can do a 5-week instead of a 6 weeks for that second 6 weeks, and we can make it happen. So here's your calendar. Do you have any other questions?
Just to clarify, the end of December and the end of May, that 29th and 30th and the 19th. So the Thursday on both of those will be half day for students. And then students don't come on those Fridays. Is that right? Just staff?
Okay.
Or-
So students and staff both do come on those days.
Okay.
So on the one that you see the 2 colors,
Uh-huh.
on that one, students will test at some of the campuses, and then everyone in the district, every student will be dismissed at noon, but staff across the district will have an opportunity to work on whatever they need to without students being present. Okay. And then on the next day, everyone's dismissed. They have an early dismissal.
Oh, okay.
So everybody leaves here.
Thank you, Miss Amy.
So after all of the work and time that they put in, and the feedback that they received, some of the feedback they received moved spring break back a week. That was one of the pieces, and I think another piece of the feedback was the half day, and then the other was the day for professional development after the week-long break for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. So they did take that and make those adjustments.
And I think one of the things I failed to mention, y'all, is that we have to go by the fewest number of minutes on a campus. So let's just say that the high school dismisses or has a late start, then those minutes for the entire district count as minutes that we're losing. So we tried to get creative, and as they dismiss kids at noon or after testing, they have time to do their grading, whatever, look at data, whatever they need. In the past, we've kept all of our staff on campus and then have kids as instruction takes place, but those minutes don't count for our district toward our minimum number of minutes. And so this provides an opportunity for all staff members to have time to have some planning time or PD time, whatever they need.
And start times and end times each day are the same as they've been. There's no change.
For
to
the
that.
for the most part, except for the high school, the late start Fridays that Mr. Reagan, I think, implemented a few years back. And so on those days, they'll still be able to keep some of the days based on what we have banked. So he'll have an opportunity to use some of those, maybe not every Friday, but we're working through that piece together.
But as far as the elementaries, junior high, high school,
yes.
everybody will start at the same
The
time.
regular,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
We're not changing, I don't believe, any
The day didn't
of the
get
starting
longer or
and
shorter.
times.
So they'll still have some Fridays or some late start days, but y'all aren't sure when? Is that what you're saying?
They'll have up to 17 late start days, yes.
And how many did they have before? That was every Friday, right?
Every Friday.
It was
yes,
every
ma'am.
Friday,
How
but
many
because
days-
of,
How many?
it depended on the calendar. Like for this calendar, it would have been 32 days. But we can't start at a deficit. We have to start with the minimum, at least the minimum required minutes required by the state. And we will.
So will
And
those
we will.
late days still affect us for the short days, for the short time?
They will, but we, again, with y'all passing the previous item of 2,100 minutes for the professional development days, that helps us. And so with the structure of the calendar, that also helps us. So yes, the 17 days will count against us. If, God forbid, we had to shut down for a week to clean schools because we have a major flu outbreak or something like that, we wouldn't have the ability, by giving those 17 days to the high school to do that. We'd have to find another way to do it, or we would have to apply for a waiver with the state, which it could approve or deny. And if it denies, then we have to find a way to make those days up, which would then mean, and again, this is all in full transparency. Pull the calendar back down, Wayne. So, can you put it back up? So say that we have to, for example, we give the 17 days to the high school to distribute on whichever Fridays. We don't have those minutes banked. We have to shut down. Then when you look at a day like this and a day like this, we may not be able to let kids go. We may have to work the whole day. And instead of everybody being dismissed at noon, here, what's the other one? Here, that one in December on the 22nd and go down to May. And here, we may end up having to work those. So the plus side of the way the calendar is structured is we do have some of that built in, just in a worst case scenario that the 17 days used for a late start occur prior to us having to shut down. Now, if there are late days on the books, but we have to shut down prior to them all being used, well, then we can say, well, now we don't have 17. we have 14 or we have 10. So there is some flexibility in there to provide some late starts, but as Ms. Pardo was pointing out, on the days where there's an early release and staff still stay and students go home, that's an opportunity for planning for everyone across the district, not just at the high school, but at the junior high, the intermediate, and at the elementary. In the past, those planning days were available only for the high school. So this provides that for everyone. So we go from over 30 days to 17 days at the high school, but you also gain the full afternoon on each of the days that are early release days.
And with the current calendar, we have 707 banked minutes. But due to the early or the late start Fridays and providing those days to the high school, we can use some of those. But if there's a need, we can always say, we're short on minutes, we're going to have to halt that. Hopefully that won't happen because I know they use these. And so it's a little complicated to work through, but I think we're in a good place. As far as minutes, we're good.
And it allows us to maintain the two breaks, the midwinter break and the October break, which otherwise we wouldn't be able to.
Remind me why the late starts on Fridays for the high school?
For planning,
For planning.
and it's about 30 minutes in the morning. It's about 30 minutes.
It's for the non-EOC tested areas. So the EOC tested areas have that built in, and if they have an end-of-course examination for freshmen and sophomore students, if they instruct that. The other staff don't, but neither do the junior high, neither do the elementary, and neither do the intermediate. So what this calendar does with the early releases and the professional development days that have been sprinkled throughout, now everyone has access to those. So whereas some had it, others didn't. So now this provides all to have it. But as Ms. Pardo's saying, still taking a look at potentially 17 days for the high school that others wouldn't have.
And do teachers take advantage of those days, the early start days? Do we have a big percentage of teachers that actually come in and plan?
That would be a question for Mr. Reagan.
Do you know what the percentage is?
7:50 a.m. on Friday. And they plan from 7:50 a.m. Till about 8:36 or 7. Then they get ready for students. The party bell rings at 8:43 on Friday mornings. So the teachers are there early to plan. This is Miss Pardo is correct on, as far as school time, it takes about 30 minutes, but our teachers begin at 10 till 8.
Dr. Sanchez, is there a way for us to get data on that?
We could, I mean, there is a way, I mean, we could get that information. I can work with Mr. Reagan and Mr. Jennings to see what we can pull.
Just to kind of look.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, as far as the calendar though goes, it looks like it's complete and meets all the UIL requirements and the minute requirements and the staff development requirements, and I know a lot goes into that, so.
It really does. I had no idea just how much went into creating a calendar, and unfortunately, people want different things, and you try to meet everyone in the middle and do the best that you can and provide all the minutes and days and balance out the 2 semesters. But it gets really hairy and tricky. I've learned a lot. It's a process. But we're in a good place with our minutes, and we just need to work through those late start Fridays and see what we can make available for the high school, and also have some minutes left in the bank.
Here recently, the weather gets ugly now.
Yeah.
Something to take into consideration. We're not getting the regular bad weather days like we used to. Now it's like you got to close down sometimes for a couple of days because it's getting bad.
And the good thing,
Something to consider.
no, it is, and that's something we'll look at, but the good thing that we've seen here recently as a trend, I'll give you an example. We received a survey from the service center on how many days we had to shut down if we were affected by the fire, and north of us. And of course, we put no days because we didn't. But Lubbock ISD shut down early in the morning. They did a late start for a couple of days. And then way north, of course, Amarillo and Shamrock, and I mean, they just shut down altogether. And so the state more than likely was asking for that data to see who they're going to approve a waiver for. And of course, during the pandemic, they also did that. If there's a real bad storm during the Snowmageddon, they surveyed all of us and they excused all of those minutes. So when it's something that truly is like an act of God or something that's outside of our control, the state's been pretty reasonable. Where they haven't is when we say, well, we had to shut down because we have a flu outbreak. And if we're the only ones, well, then they're like, no, we don't think so. And so that's when we tend to need our minutes. But if it's a big event, they're about, I'd say 70% yay, 30% no on approving those waiver requests. So with that, I'll make a recommendation on behalf of the administration, EIC, and all those who voted for or against the calendar for consideration and approval of the 24-25 instructional calendar. And that percentage was 78%.
Okay. Board, if there's no more questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion. We approve the calendar for 24-25 school year. As presented.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
All right, thank you. And now HR will get to busy building calendars, art calendars.
Okay, consideration and approval of the 24-25 PK adoption materials.
All right.
Okay.
So our, we reviewed quite a few programs, and out of the programs, the 10 pre-K classrooms in the district selected Frog Street Press. And so they had an opportunity to look at the materials, look at the standards, see which materials align best. And so on behalf of the administration, on behalf of the teachers who reviewed those materials, being all of the pre-K teachers, I'd like to make a recommendation for consideration and approval of the 24-25 pre-K adoption materials being Frog Street Press.
Board, any questions or comments?
Have we used this in the past? Has this been used in the past?
No, sir, it hasn't.
And is it just a pre-K program or does it?
Basically, we put a committee together. Teachers came and we reviewed 3 programs. We had the teaching strategies, we have Scholastic, and then Frog Street. As you know, the state has all these this website where you can actually review the the committees that they have put at the state level, and they have reviewed all these resources, and they get a ranking, right? They get a score. Frog Street ranks among the top ones, if not the top one right now. 100% conforming, aligned to the pre-kindergarten guidelines. That means that you have all the areas that you need to teach in pre-K, which is the 4 core plus technology. You have social emotional, you have fine arts, physical education, language and communication. All of that is in the program. If you go, they are 100% conforming right now. So this program really addresses all those domains. Like I said, it's English and Spanish, it's printed and digital. I have used this program. It's one of the strongest programs out there right now for pre-K. I want to remind you also that the state actually revised the pre-kindergarten guidelines in 2023, and we were not ready. No district was ready to really adopt something for the 2023 school year because they just reviewed the guidelines. So we took this year to put the committee together to review materials, and Frog Street is really, according to Region 17 as well, they say we cannot go wrong because it's pretty much the one they have out there. And many districts are using it. Lubbock ISD uses the program. I'm familiar with the program. My teachers loved it in the past as well. Our teachers rated the program out of the 3 the highest as well. And basically, if this is approved, it would be, we would provide professional development to the teachers. They have really voiced that they want to make sure they have the materials ahead of time, if approved, and that they want to be trained early on before school is over, so that they are ready with what they need in preparation for next school year.
Dr. Moreno, who was, don't want names necessarily, but who the committee consist of?
Yes, so we have the pre-K teachers, they were all invited. We have a few who may have skipped one of the meetings because we couldn't find someone to cover the classroom, and that happened at South, for example, that I can remember. But it was central office staff. We have instructional coaches like Jill Jones, it was myself, the executive director of instructional support, Mary Sanchez. There was also the pre-K teachers who could attend because we found coverage for them. But for the most part, they were here. Paulina as well, the language acquisition coach. So it was a mix of central office and teachers. We were interested in having the teachers also here.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
The total price is $68,547.68. Taxes heavy duty, $5,224.19.
Okay.
And,
Dr. Sanchez, I'm
yes.
so sorry. There mentioned something important, that one of the reasons also we want to go ahead and adopt it because the state is actually in the process of developing something, but it's not ready yet. So we have been advised also by Region 17, to go ahead and move forward because we cannot wait. I have been, in contact with the state and also Region 17 as well. Is it going to come out soon? Is it going to be ready for our teachers? And like I said, our teachers really want to make sure they go home for summer with something that they can come back and put together, right? So that's another important detail that I wanted you to have. We don't know when they're going to release what they're putting together.
So I'll finish up.
Sorry.
Again, the program itself isn't the expense part. The freight is $8,259. That's shipping and handling. Said tax is $5,000 of it. And then the program itself is the remaining, 36, 46, 56 is the remaining amount. So about the remaining 50,000. So the total price is $68,000. It comes out of IMA, which is instructional materials allotment that is designated for this purpose, as well as some HB3 funds that are specifically dedicated to pre-kindergarten education. So that's a total cost. So in your consideration for approval of the item, I wanted to be sure you had the exact breakdown of how much it is. So it's $68,000 for the 10 teachers.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? And this is for 5 years, I see. So it'll be all the registration or members or whatever they need for the next 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Make a motion, we approve. 2024-25 pre-K adoption materials.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Consideration and approval of the board policy update DEC local.
Yes, and this is, again, at the last meeting, the board had an opportunity to approve the change for catastrophic event pool. And so this places that change in policy DEC local.
Okay, board, any questions or comments about this? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the board policy DEC local.
A second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you.
And so we'll go ahead and update that's a TASB policy that you'll see. TASB has already reviewed this, and so with y'all's approval, we'll move that forward.
Okay, and then consideration and possible approval of the certification of unopposed candidates for general election for District 1 and District 7.
Yes, ma'am. As we had 2 unopposed candidates for 2 of the 3 seats that were up, this would in effect ratify position 1 and 7, so that would be Ms. De La Garza and Mr. Soto returning to the board. And so with that, on behalf of the administration and board members in District 1 and 7, I'll make the recommendation for consideration and possible approval of the certification of unopposed candidates for the general election for District 1 and 7 of the Board of Trustees election, May 4, 2024.
Board, any questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? No?
All right, now we'll need some signatures for that one. I have the items there.
Okay. And then the consideration and possible approval for the order of partial cancellation of the general election for District 1 and 7.
Yes, ma'am. This is just a function as item 9 passed, then item 10 would follow suit, which would mean there would be no need to have an election in the 2 unopposed districts. So on behalf of the administration, board members mentioned, I'll make a recommendation for your consideration, possible approval of the order.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
I second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Consideration and possible approval of the joint election agreement with the city of Plainview.
Yes, ma'am. This just would mean that we would work with the city of Plainview for any of the electorate for the contested district that exists or resides within the city of Plainview. And so on behalf of the administration, I'll make the recommendation for consideration and possible approval of the joint election agreement.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we have the pass the joint election agreement with the city of Plainview.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, that passes. Consideration and approval of the joint election agreement with Hale County for certain election services for May 4th, 2024.
Yes, ma'am. Very similar to the previous item. This one is for any of the electorate that would reside not within the city, however, but within the county. And so therefore, the county would serve as a entity for the joint election agreement. So they would run it and we would support them in it. So with that, on behalf of the administration, make a recommendation to the board for your consideration and possible approval of the joint election agreement with Hale County.
If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion for this.
I so move we approve of the joint election agreement with Hill County.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. And consideration and approval of the resolution to have a joint election on May 4th, 2024 with the city of Plainview.
As with item 11, where the board agreed with the joint election agreement, this resolution ratifies that so that there is a joint election, which means we wouldn't run our own election and then the city would run its own election, that we would run the election together. And so with that, on behalf of the administration, I'd like to make a recommendation that the board consider and possibly approve the resolution to have a joint election on May 4, 2024 with the city of Plainview.
There are no questions. I'll entertain a motion for this item.
So move.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Very good. Consideration and possible approval of the resolution for election services provided by Hale County for May 4th, 2024.
And last but not least, very similar to item 13, this would ratify item 12 through a resolution for election services provided by Hale County for the May 4, 2024 election. So with that, on behalf of the administration, I'd like to recommend for your consideration and possible approval of a resolution for election services provided by Hale County for the May 4th, 2024 election.
Okay. If there are no questions, do I hear a motion for this item?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. All right, the next item will be our consensus agenda from the regularly called meeting, February 22nd, 2024.
And on behalf of the administration, we would recommend for your consideration the consensus agenda, which are the minutes.
Questions, comments about the minutes from that February meeting? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Is there any other information items?
No, ma'am, everything else is reports to the board, and so you can take a look at any of the other items listed as other items or information items for discussion, and there's no need for a closed session this board meeting, so that would conclude the business of the district for the evening.
Okay, thank you all.